So, okay, welcome everyone. It's a hard start, 4 o'clock last day, but I tried to give you some good content. It's non-tech content, but maybe there's some tech involved too. Sometimes I'm referring to it as layer 8. It depends where the setting is. Then they ask, what do you mean by layer 8? Then I say, it's the Aussie model. Then they say, what do you mean by Aussie? Like CSI? I said, no, forget it. Don't talk about layers. Talk about social engineering. So I do all kinds of social engineering activities. Additionally to my normal work, I work as a consultant for one of the Switzerland's biggest telecommunication provider. 80% of my work is paper-based work like assessments, gap analysis, ISOs, some pen testing, etc. And the other 20% is for specific clients, because as the telco provider, which is partially government-owned, we have all the biggest clients with us. So we have our own clouds, we have our own IoT cloud, we have government, military, defense, police, which are hosting with us, and I'm working for those clients. So I work as an external client within that context. I also think, how can we make hacking great again? And just my daughter sent me, as soon as the president was elected, she sent me some stuff through with funny pictures. She's 16. I have a boy and a daughter. Sometimes I'm referring to her as Vicky, which is the short form of Wikipedia, because she's a little, sometimes a smart ass. And she sent me something through, which is a joke in reference to the vote. And she says, do you know why Trump won? And then she says, because Hillary deleted all the votes from her email server. That was quite amusing, I thought. So, let's get started. It will be a quick presentation because I wanted to show you a lot of content for social engineering. I do have a crowd, which I believe are lateral thinkers, is very quick, is very fast. So here with this one, my introduction, information security is just more than IT security. It's all about. It's what you write, it's what you store, it's what you archive, and it's what you speak as well. So with this little spelling error, it's actually an attack vector. Does someone already know what that could be for an attack vector? RN, and it's an M. Yeah, okay, didn't take long. Sometimes it takes much longer. So that's what I mean. We can go fast. Try to give you as much information as I can. So what I do, I speak, write, I publish. Recently I do more politicize about certain issues, more than I actually would like. I do also volunteer work, writing for different non-profit organizations. I do also mentoring. Part of my work, which is for me quite interesting, I do also a bit of hack and research and experiment. Hack more to the area of how the attack have worked. Why did they work? So I do a bit of reverse engineering, but not on code level. So what was the initial spark of this attack? What steps were involved in the attack? At what point could you actually have prevented the attack? So that's a very interesting area for me, especially since I get paid to do that. That's fun. So, but also I do some other crazy stuff. I also invented some shoes. I posted that on my website and blog, and no one believed me, but I did it actually, so here's the proof. I made business shoes with Vibram soles for social engineering and for red teaming. Because there is a specific problem with this. If you do red teaming work or social engineering, you might need very hard or strong shoes. Then you can say, all right, I take hiking shoes or I take tactical shoes, like police has, etc. The problem with those shoes is they usually have metal in them, so it's a pain in the ass for the airport if you travel, and they don't look good with the suit. Even if you have the best suit, if you have one of those shoes, you can forget it, it doesn't work. So I had to make my own invention. We have a very good shoemaker. I told him this, I said, look, my dream is business shoes which look inconspicuous, put a Vibram sole on them, and then you can, just hang on wherever you have to hang on a balcony or whatever, or you can still kick in a door if you have to. So also, my last addition is this one. It's absolutely fantastic. I just bought that last week. It's actually meant for your sink. You get all that ugly stuff out there onto your drain. But so far I tested it. You can pick up keychains very easily with that one. You can slip it into any pocket. Something maybe just holds on to it. It's actually fantastic. I mean, it needs a bit of recoloring, maybe black, and you also can probably put it into the door. I haven't tested it yet, to keep the door open for you, for instance. So I always look for tools which doesn't exist. It looks stupid, but it's also plastic, goes well with the security. So that's what I mean with social engineering. It's so much more than just technology, and it's what's actually hitting you, or will hit you. I'm quite sure of that. Then today is about you, not me. Sounds like a WhatsApp breakup line. It's about me, honey, not you. But that's the point. So I always try to give value when I present something or present a topic, because if I look around and see you here and ask, okay, what's your hourly rate? What's your daily rate? And multiply that with the 40 minutes we have, that's a lot of money. And then I always push myself to, okay, I need to deliver for that money, which is worth. In some settings, it's quite interesting. We can do this too because people are so compliant. We are so used to be compliant. We're used to filling in forms. We always fill in everything, especially the Swiss. But you know, if there is a form, you ask for shoe size, something, they will fill in everything. Sometimes you can even ask, what's your hourly rate? What's your daily rate? And they will tell you. But I won't do that today. So, to go ahead with this is what I want to do. I want to put the human in debug mode. That would be my dream. That's my plan for world domination. So, get them to do things they don't want to do. Try things with people which are possible. But also, it's quite astonishing what's actually possible in manipulating people. So there's a great risk. But also a great risk in damaging a person or a person's reputation, for instance. So that's why I developed this whole framework. I will show you parts of it today. But then, again, I posted this, and I said, at DeepSec, I will actually release a human to social engineering interface. I wrote a press release, 2 pages long, with that one. And then actually some people ask, when can you buy it? And I mean, that would be perfect. We have some romance scan for the girls. We have some thinking with lower body parts for the guys. Bullshit management mode, read all, believe all. We put it to no control, exploit or deception mode. That would be perfect, right? But still, what I'm missing is, in this context is, I don't know, people have somehow stopped to think critically. And think not here. Here it's particularly good. It's refreshing for the mind to be at a conference like this, where people think lateral, where people can think of things no one has thought of before. But sometimes this is completely missing. People don't think critically anymore. And there's an old saying, if it looks too good to be true, it is probably too good to be true. But still, it's quite an interesting topic, specifically if you see the reaction I had with this one. So, social engineering is finding, as I say, the emotional crowbar, or as the English guy says, the jemmy, and finding leverage, and of course, push or crack. So you're looking with social engineering for the slightest anomaly. You look for the slightest change. You look for the slightest surface where you have information from, and then you try to exploit it. I mean, I'm one of the good guys and can do bad things, but if you have some guys which have just no ethical boundaries or whatever, it can go really, really bad. So this is the analogy. That's social engineering. You look for something, you look for little pieces, you're looking for intelligence in general about the person, about the place, about the situation. And as I say, you will see later, you can make out of anything an attack vector as such. How? Here you see a couple of pictures. It's about fishing, spear fishing, whaling. That's the big guy down there. That's when you attack me. It's called whaling. So it's baiting with a mousetrap, dumpster diving, eavesdropping, impersonation, and shoulder surfing. This is just a part of the collection available to a social engineer. And for the first time in the framework or in the book, I will show you later the link, you can download it for free. They're all described. They're all attack vector and attack vector principles you can exploit or you can try to use. Some are better in certain circumstances, some are not good. It depends. But also what you can see here, it's a basic principle. If you want money from management, you need to make pictures. And as you saw, maybe the reaction to Heartbleed, or in my area was quite interesting. There was the logo, Heartbleed, a bleeding heart, very dramatic. It was much easier to get money to fix it and get a plan. So that's also one of the reasons I developed these icons. You will also be able to download them for free, and then you can use them. You can say, okay, I need some help with dumpster diving, for whatever reasons. This is dumpster diving. It's a basic principle. When you can see something, it's much easier than it's an abstract concept. So use them to your advantage. You get more budget to fix vulnerabilities. Then one of the other important points to realize is what I call the attack chain. So we look closely at that just in a minute. So social engineering does not exist as such only for itself. It does maybe in certain instances, but usually it's a part of a larger attack chain, or it's a part of an attack you plan. It's bits and pieces of information you collect together, and then the whole chain could look like that, for instance. So here we have an attack chain. That's just an example. We have maybe in the beginning as step 1, you do a bit of dumpster diving, open source intelligence, target selection, etc. Step 2 is you start fishing, spear fishing, whaling, whatever you want to do. Step 3 and 4 is then phishing domains, command and control servers, and cloud services for deployment. Then step 6 or 5 is, 5 starts first, it's exploiting the information you have, whatever it is. And step 6 is transferring money or using mules for withdrawal. That works quite well. So this is an attack chain, how a whole attack can work. And parts of it, at any point, there is maybe social engineering involved in help with the attack. So the problem here is, this is like the critical path. Do we have any project managers here? Which kind of, the critical path, you know, start early, start together, will finish, has to finish. So a project is split into steps, and then there is one critical path through the whole project. If one of these steps is taking longer, or you cannot execute, you break the chain, you break the critical path. But also that's your opportunity, because you don't know, when you get social engineered, at some point, where am I in this whole attack chain? Is that point 1? Is that basically a double dip of point 2, for instance, because there were not enough information to execute spear phishing? So you know where you are. So it's always important, and you know that from tools. You can also compare that to intelligence tools. I don't want to make any brand names, but maybe like ArcSight. You should have ArcSight for humans. You get socially engineered at some point, time passes by, and at another point you will get socially engineered again. But the question is, can you correlate it? At one point you have given a name, on another point there was a breach maybe, you lost your employee directory, but then where are you in this attack chain? So from a defensive perspective, think about or try to determine where you are and where you could hit next and make the correlation. I know for humans it's usually quite difficult. They don't even remember what they had for dinner last night, but it's the same thing in the technical world, which applies, as say, to social engineering. That's the book. We wrote a book about it. The book is basically a collection of best practices, because we thought we need to have methodology. We thought we need to have structure in place to social engineering. But also, from a point of view as customers ourselves, we were looking for methodologies, how to run social engineering exercise like pen testing. Pen testing is already difficult enough if you do pen testing, right? So there is no pen testing. Yeah, you can pen test, but only this segment, but don't exploit and only these machines, and maybe you will blue screen them in the worst case. It's already very, very difficult, but there is some governance around pen testing, right? But for social engineering, there's nothing. Yeah, do social engineering. Yeah, what should I do? To what extent? To what level do you want me to do social engineering? If I get an assignment, for instance, try this if you can enter the data center, for instance. Then you can have different approaches entering the data center. If you have enough time, you can pose as an employee, get employed, work there, and then you quit. You go. If you don't have time, you break in, or you give the job to someone else to break in. So both jobs achieve the goal, but one is more risky, the other one is less risky. So here I actually got the download code for the impatient ones. So take your phone, make a picture. It's the link for downloading it. I will show it you at the end again. Also, it was quite interesting. At one stage, I had the discussion, is there actually a book? I said, well, now we're getting somewhere. You need to raise your level of paranoia, I guess. But there is actually a book. I didn't brought one with me. That sounds like a lame excuse, but try it. Click on this link. It's free. And you know, whenever it's free, you are the product. I admit you are the product, but to the extent that I can come here and speak to you. You just have to put in last name, first name, credit card number, credit limits. No, last name, first name, email. It doesn't need to be a valid email, but you get to send the product there. So everyone here should know about using those email services which have temporary email addresses. The only thing I see, because it's a professional service, is who has downloaded it. And it's quite interesting for me because I have downloaded it myself a couple of times, obviously. Dominic Breck with the name. It's quite funny. So then, of course, sorry I have to bore you with this, but for social engineering, we couldn't find a valid definition. We thought about this long and wide, but most of the definitions are valuating. They say stealing information or obtaining classified information, but that's not the point. We believe, the colleague I wrote the book with from Germany, he does exist, by the way, it's the elicitation of information. That's the whole point. I want information, and it doesn't matter where and how from and what it is, and maybe what you like to drink for coffee, caffeinated or not, or with milk, without milk. The elicitation of information from 3D areas, system networks or human beings. And I apply methods and tools. So some refer to social engineers as the little brother of hackers who can't code. Yeah, that's maybe true to some extent, but social engineering is also using tools to achieve its goals. We saw some of them just here in display. So we actually love fruits and we love animals. Rubber duckies and pineapple. So let's have a quick look at the topics of the book. That's basically all in there. We have some boring stuff about engagement management. If you want to do social engineering, what you should do with your clients. If you extend your business, instead of pen testing or additionally to pen testing, what you should look for. That would also be what I look for if I would procure social engineering services. I would request a minimum level or a minimum outline of the methodology used, the risks involved, and if I do social engineering testing, I expect someone to bring in a method I can repeatably apply. So I want to have the same approach, headquarters in Austria, branch offices in Switzerland and everywhere. I want to have the same approach at every place. I want to have it repeatable so I can run it yearly and I can compare. So it's the same requirements for social engineering as for pen testing. Then we talked about governance risk, compliance, intensity levels, That's all in there. Now this one, little beware of. I thought you as an audience, you can cope with that. I will have a puzzle which looks like an explosion, but at the end of my session you will be able to put it together, I'm sure. So it will be 20,000 feet, it will be 6 feet, I will go up and down and left and right. Then those topics didn't make the cut. The framework bit, the engagement management bit, GRC++. GRC++ has also ethics, that's anyway useless at the hacker conference. Approach selection method, but I will, for completeness, speed present them to you. So that's the framework. At the bottom, we said for social engineering, we need governance, risk, and compliance measures in place. Because I'm talking about social engineering, doing it for companies, doing it for corporations, and they're very risk aware. They don't let you just mess around with their people or testing their areas. Then we define some methods, how you can do that, how do you execute it, how do you make it repeatable. For certain areas we have instructions, so everyone who is taking a method has an instruction, can either do it himself, or if you need that skills, a specialist to execute, you will give it to a specialist. I'm talking about large engagements. For certain areas, maybe you want to have a psychologist helping you with this, assessing a person, assessing a behavior. So that's what we mean with the framework, basically. This is engagement management. You can basically take this and throw it into your engagement management framework in terms of, there are just a couple of risk points which are important and specifically to social engineering. It's 3 phases, you have to go through all this and you will be fine. That's for you when you want to do social engineering. I mean, you can always tailor it down to your needs. But that's basically what we came up with. If you, for instance, are a large corporation, what would you expect from the company doing social engineering for you? That's the GRC++, intensity level, those ones I will show you. Engagement management, I just showed you before. There is some bits about ethics, it's always a good thing, and about culture as well. Here is approach selection, because for social engineering, as I told you before, you can have different approaches to a certain goal. Some of the approaches you can do only once. They are one-offs. So for instance, if you try to access a facility or try to ascertain how the physical security of a location is, you can do that once. If you have done it, they will speak to each other. Then you can forget about this attack vector. So that's what you model with this. It's boring stuff. But it's quite interesting because it has also to do with value. When do you execute it, for instance, and can you execute it again? Is it repeatable or is it one-off? Here is then where you map it out against intensity levels. Those ones I will show you because we made categories for attack vectors, which is like the traffic light system, very easy. It's green, orange, red. Red you should not do if you don't have to, and green is okay. But here again you have a process. Here you see it will execute A1, approach 1. If it's successfully, I will execute approach 2, etc. Then the intensity level, and I picked those ones to show you a little bit more details. I think they're very important. They're not only important, I think, in the terms of social engineering, but they're also maybe important for you if you have vulnerabilities you want to disclose, if you develop attack code. So that's maybe like your personal ethics. Or when you think of, okay, how do I release? How do I release responsibly? Do I sell it to the dark web, for instance? So you can use this table to benchmark yourselves, or benchmark your team, or benchmark your company. It can be on a personal level or on a company level. You say, I only work green. And green means it's legal, non-invasive, open source intelligence. It's a standard. It's a preservation of a person's integrity or a company integrity. That's okay. Social engineering with these levels, it's perfectly okay. Orange gets a bit more tricky. The big difference between orange and red is basically from a law perspective. For the orange ones, it's misdemeanors in the US realm, and the red ones is felonies. So red one is basically Kapitalverbrechen, and the other one, the orange one, is minor crimes. And you have to, you don't have to, that's what I say. Think about this beforehand. If you're executing a tax, or if you release something, in which category can it fall? And can you maybe minimize this risk? So that's what this table is for. It's also that you sign and agree on this table with your client. As I said, entering the data center, I can have different approaches. I describe it and say, dear client, accessing data center costs you that much. I will take this approach and I try if it works. But we stay within level green, because then you send off your team and you won't see them until the job is finished or they are in jail. So we have to agree on that one beforehand. And here we just have another dimension to it, which says, okay, who can approve? Should you engage black level attack vectors? I think it's unnecessary in the business context. It doesn't give you any value. These 3- and 4-letter acronym companies worldwide can do that. But from a business perspective, where's the value in that? You'd probably stay green and a bit of orange. But if you go with risk and say, okay, I'm a total daredevil, I only work red projects, you can do that. But as a company or as an individual, risk here is definitely you should outsource this. Don't do those tasks yourself. I mean, you can, but it's not really wise. So, here, attack vector development. How do you come up with attack vector? Social engineering can work, many people can work for social engineering. So you have the ones who do the attack or execute them if necessary. You have the ones who do plan the attack vectors, and you have the ones who come up with the strategy for those attack vectors. So anything can become an attack vector. Even that you hear on the conference, or I know that you love cat videos on YouTube. So bear in mind. Here I show you how do we structure and based on a method develop attack vectors. I will go into detail now, you can see it a bit better. It's too small. So first, you choose if it's a physical one or if it's a technology-based attack vector, a cyber one. After that, you have two options. You can either execute on-site or you can execute remote. I can call someone or I go there, for instance. I can use technology injecting malware into email systems, or I go there and drop memory sticks. These two options, you decide first. That's how you go make a method out of it. Then comes something what we call principle. What is the principle of your attack vector? And here we have a couple of principles. So basically you can use anything as an attack vector, as I said, but you can use curiosity, you can use deception, you can use Maslow, hierarchy of needs, for instance. You just repurpose it to become an attack vector. Maslow is physical needs come first, because self-actualization. Physical need, if you use it as an attack vector, could be if people are unhappy in a company, because maybe they have to pay for coffee now, 50 cents or 50 euros. That's like a basic need for them. You can use this as an attack vector. You can say, over the street is free coffee for the employees of this company, or whatever. So everything can be used as an attack vector. You have to choose what you want to do. What are you looking for with those ones? You look for sweet spot, weaknesses, strengths out of characters. And then, that's the bad news. There is time constraints, money constraints, of course. The chance of success, for some attack vectors, we defined chances for success. We know beforehand this type of attack works really well, for instance. The resource requirements, can you do that? Do you need to outsource that? Do you need a psychological advisor, for instance, etc.? And then you go also to the intensity levels. Is that attack vector still within green? Or is it already orange or even red? That's the way how you compose attack vectors. You go through that list and you choose. And you first make a target selection. What's my target? how I'm going to attack it, and with what. Here is a map of the attack vectors, because obviously there is effort involved in it, or it's important, the task or engagement. Here you have the standard AVs. They are predefined. I will show you 2 of those. No dumpster diving is predefined what it is, and the risk is predefined. But here we have something like SER maps, which is completely customized. And obviously they cost a lot of money to develop. But let me show you an example of this. The brain is actually a funny thing, how it works, and what we perceive as a reality is just a matter of filters. So just have a look through the next 2 pictures and read. No comment on that one, but they were just letters on a screen. And what do they actually mean? The meaning of it is what you do out of this. That's just a little joke. That's Rorschach. That's figure 8. So how does this make you feel? You know, it's a social engineer, of course. No. And that's also something we use within social engineering. Certain behavior or cultural behavior, and you know that, and you can use it to your advantage. Always keep critical thinking. These are standard attack vectors. I'll show you 2 of those. That's eavesdropping. Here you have the signal, the icon of it. If you want more money, use this. And as you can see, we defined everything for this standard attack vector. Standard means you go there, I say, I want to do eavesdropping with this company, you assign it, you do it, finished. It's also a question of effort. Intensity level assessment, it can be done within these levels, except for wiretapping. If you do eavesdropping like this, it's perfectly. Wiretapping is a bit delicate. But also an assessment of how it works in regards to the law. These are standard AVs. Second one is tailgating, a description what it is, how do you apply, and within what level it is. So the tailgate, blah, 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 etc. Needs to know all this. Here's an example of fishing. Spearfishing, whaling is included. Tactics and experience. That's also, we had a good session today about perception and learning, machine learning. And information for machines is so different to what you think, what you see, or what it is that you think you see, even worse. Obviously, this is not the same. We have a small fish and a shark. It's very easy. But here, on this, how does it look like? I need glasses, so but it looks quite, wow, very the same, does it? So there is a particular program. So that's what I was asking before with this little typo in the first slide. It's a homographic attack. So a shark eats little fish there. We use that too. I will just show you an example of how we do fishing in Swisscom. Also, if you have domain names in your name or in your company and you have an M in them, maybe think of buying the RN version as well, because one was FishMe and the other was Fischerni. You know, you can't even spell it, but in the browser, it looks perfect. Of course, you have this with other means as well, with other character sets, with little C's, etc. Very, very nasty. We use that too. Here's some facts and figures. We have more than 20,000 users. We test monthly phishing attacks against our users. We pick about 320. About a third clicks on that stuff. Only 16 are reporting it as per definition of the policies. Me, of course. I think I had about a minute. I was reporting it. First clicks after 6 minutes, and some click multiple times. And then I would really like to go there and how can you click on a phishing email multiple times? It happens. There is where I have to shut up then. And even when they click on the phishing email, they get actually this, an explanation how you could have spotted the phishing email with 6 points. How can you then click multiple times on a phishing email? That's beyond anything. So, I don't know, that's just an example. A third will click, the first one after 6 minutes, They will click multiple times, and you will never have zero. You will always have people clicking. That's just a fact. What do we have here? The advanced attack vector. Let's go through that one. That's what we call the SCR map, social and emotional relationship map. It's actually, that doesn't exist anywhere else. We kind of invented that because we wanted to make really nasty attack vectors. It's a mixture between what exists in psychology. If a psychologist is assessing you, maybe he's using some of these techniques. Or if you look at family trees, they look very similar. So it's a mix. By the way, if you talk about impersonation attack vector, it's always good to use a fictitious company than to try to pose as a real company. Also, if you want to go very deep and you make your whole set with visit cards, letterhead and everything, and it's fake, you have to think about stop there, because falsification of documents is a major crime in most countries. So it's not a good idea. Use something fictitious, make something up, whatever. Also, you can call yourself a psychological advisor in most countries, so I am your psychological advisor. I cannot say I'm a psychologist, okay? So you need to look there. So creating this map, in the middle you have the index person or your target. It sounds always hard if you have a target. And then you map out his environment to whatever degree you want and however big you wanted to make this. Here's a very simple example. It's Chris, he's 45, that's the age. He's married with Alice, which is 44. He had an affair with Tiffany in 2014. His best pal is Bob, who has PTSD. His wife hates Bob, and he's already focused on Claire, which is 18. So we do this map for our target person. What are we looking for? We look for pattern recognition. Is there a pattern in this map? Is there something you can see? Location-based, emotional-based, relationship-based. Is something out of character for this person or index person? Incongruencies, strong, high developed, or weak. I show you two of these points from the assessment. Basically, it's a simple exam, okay? So Chris had an affair with 20-year-old and he's focused on 18-year-old. He would maybe respond well to phishing attacks with women. Okay, 90% of guys would do, but okay, that's what you make out of it. Do you get it? It's emotionally loaded areas. It's also good. Think about the crowbar, how you set this one on. So Alice is a bit hostile towards Bob. That maybe can be used against him, Chris' best pal. So you can create your attack vectors based on this intelligence. That's very nasty. Hopefully you never get one of those used against you. So interpersonal distance, that's very simple, general knowledge. We have like spaces around us, depending on culture. So intimate spaces may be arm's length, except if you're in France and Italy. They hug you and kiss you and whatever. So these are the spaces, and each space is like a gate you pass through and you cannot run through. Otherwise you will lose trust of your target, I guess. Adapted this scenario to the desk. If you approach someone, okay, very simple, traffic light, green is good, orange somewhat good, red, don't sneak up. They don't feel comfortable, they don't speak to you, they hate you. So keep those things in mind. I think it's important for social engineering, or if you want to pay rise at some point, I guess. Here is all the links, download of these icons, of this stuff, the book again. Here's the download code. If you now have 10 seconds to remember this, and then it's gone, what would you do? If you are in a spa, only with your bath shorts and no pen, what would you do? So social engineer also think about those things, mnemonics. So it's 4 on, little lower C6. So just remember this, 4 on, little lower C6. And then you can reconstruct the download code, okay? And just make a picture. Or make a picture and print it out and give it to your friend and he makes the download for you. So, that's it. I guess, from my side. Or do we have, yeah, maybe I can show you that one. Microexpression, lie to me, you know that. Need to assess within a short time frame. I show you the example of macro expressions, because micro expressions is for specialists. It's really hard. You can see that in a video or an interview, switch off the tone and then assess. It's easier. But during, I tried. But either I look at the person like this, which doesn't really help the conversation, or it's not possible. Or you need a second person observing. Here are the 6 states mapped. It's not that hard. It's still hard. I'm finished now. Thank you. So, questions?
We've got time for one question, a short one.
Just a quick question about this SCR that you were talking about. I'm not quite sure how it would occur in a practical situation. How would you get all that really intimate personal information from somebody?
Oh, it depends. For instance, it's gossip. It can be office gossip. Or I was at the SCTF DEFCON competition for social engineering, and there I looked up open source information. So I looked up LinkedIn profiles. I found maybe memberships of certain clubs. I already get some picture, and then I try to get more information. Maybe there is like a little ad from his kids in some newspaper. I try to make it as good as I can. I can find that out via register, marriage registers, death registers. Some of them are open. Also for phishing, it's usually quite good if you go to the census website of a country, because there is the most used surnames in 2015, and I think, yeah, thank you very much. Makes it more relevant, the phishing email. So you try as good as you can, or then even you ask. You bring someone in there, and as I said, eavesdropping, listening is the best thing. You go to the same cafeteria, you know these guys from this company are always in this pub, then the other guys from this company are in this pub, never in the same. You use your ears, and you try to do it as much as possible, or you outsource, as I said. You give that job to someone, PI, here, 2 days, get me as much as you can. It depends to what depth you need that.
Thank you.